Okay, so we're back with another Market Open live stream. Bear with me 1 second. Right, we're back with another Market Open live stream. Today is the 1st of December. And today we're going to talk about, obviously, where we're expecting the market to go today. It's going to be an interesting session. You know what I usually do on days like this. As we usually do, we'll just head on and get ready to start our session with a pre-market analysis. I may or may not have to log in, and so we'll try and figure that out. Give me a second. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to log in. Okay, so we're having a bit of a sell down into the market open, into pre-market, and so that's going to be quite an important session. I don't remember taking a loss on Friday. On Wednesday, oh yeah, I was down on Wednesday, only slightly. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with our pre-market analysis. And what we usually do is we go into a new month. We'll start our session off with the template for our bias for the session, and this allows us to make sure that we're trading in a very, very systematic way, which is extremely important. Bear with me actually. Alright, so yeah, that's all perfect. And so we want to ensure that we're trading in a systematic way, and so what we do is we use our pre-market analysis, use our template to try and figure out where the market's going to go. And so what I'm going to do first and foremost is we're going to we're going to conduct our pre-market analysis by just going over what the market's doing. And so we know the market's currently bullish. We know it's bullish because we've been trending higher since this point here. We made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher high, and it looks like we're potentially making a higher low as we continue to target our order block here. We also had an opening gap. We'll get to that in a moment. However, we know that we're bullish. We know that we're targeting external highs. We also know that external highs has been taken, so we'll mark that out. And the reason why we spoke about external highs being taken is because this level here could be deemed as an external high, and then we had a gap here, and so we'll keep an eye out for that as well. So we have an opportunity to potentially take short trades down, targeting our intraday liquidity. Alright, moving forward, we know that the market is trending, so we could get rid of that. And then we have an opening gap as our session liquidity. We have an opening gap as our session liquidity. And we're going to look for important levels of internal liquidity as well. So first and foremost, we've got this level here, which I believe is Friday's lows. And so we'll mark out Friday's lows as well. So we've got liquidity here, we've got liquidity here at Friday's lows. And as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of liquidity down here as price is going to begin to target all of these levels. And so we can't take any short positions until either this is swept or into the session we might have a rally higher, and then we get a red candle, and that will be our opportunity to sell the market down into our liquidity. But currently we cannot take any positions in the pre-market, and so we've got about 30 minutes until the market opens. So we've got our opening gap, we've got internal liquidity at previous day's lows, we've got session lows, which is our London session low right here, we've got our Asian session low right here, and these are both our Asian session lows, and then we've got our previous day's lows as well. And so as you can see, we're actually building quite a lot of liquidity in this area. We also have unswept London session lows from Thursday, and so price could also come back down and take this level out as well. And then we've also got all of this unswept liquidity from Wednesday, and this is previous day's low, previous session low on Wednesday. So this was London session low on Wednesday, and this here was Asian session low on Wednesday as well. And so all of this is liquidity. It's going to be interesting because I want to see whether or not price is going to end up targeting our order block first before we come down. And so maybe we could have a sweep of some liquidity here, and then we go up to our order block, and then we reject off our order block later on in the week and then come back down. However, let's continue with our liquidity map. So alright, so we've got we know we're bullish, we know we're targeting external highs, and our external highs at this point after sweeping this level would be up here. This would be our external highs, and so price can still go up and target this level. You've got an opening gap here, and so if we get a rebound today and price trades higher, we are most likely going to target our external highs up here before seeing some sort of reversal. If that happens, I will expect to see further displacement higher. Nevertheless, carrying on, hourly and 4 hour order flow. If we hop onto the hourly chart, we can see the hourly chart is actually somewhat bearish, but it's not completely bearish because we had a little bit of a rally here to shift this to bullish. And so currently hourly chart is in bullish order flow, although we are trading in somewhat of a sideways pattern, so we can't commit to bullish for that. The 4 hour so this opened at 470, this closed at 470, 470.1, closed at 470.4. Alright, so based on 0.1, 0.4, 4 hours still in a bullish trend, although so hourly order flow is bullish. All right, so we managed to quickly conduct our pre-market analysis, and I'm just going to go over it really quickly. We've got about 20 more minutes until the market opens. And so, okay, so we managed to conduct our pre-market analysis, and I'm just going to go over it really quickly, um, just before we, enter the session, so you guys have a rough idea of what I believe is about to take place. And so, we know that obviously this is US30 chart. We know that the chart is currently bullish, um, and so we know that the market type is bullish. We know that we're targeting our external target, and our external target would be this level. This was our initial external target, and we broke above it. So now, following the price action, we should then target this level. Um, and based on that, we know the market's trending. Now, we've conducted also a session liquidity map, mapping out all our important levels on the chart in regards to liquidity. And the first important level is this level right here. This is our opening gap. And usually what happens is when price gaps higher and then comes down, what we usually see is price, um, if price is able to close the day below this gap, it indicates that there's sellers at this level from an institutional level, from an institutional standpoint. And so, although we're still bullish, because price is trading below this level, we're going to have to keep an eye on how the day closes before we make a decision on whether or not we want to shift our bias to bullish or bearish. But at this current moment in time, we're still remaining bullish. Right, moving forward, we marked our important levels of liquidity on the chart, and there's quite a few. We've got our previous day's lows, we've got our London session low, as we're bullish. We've got our London session lows as well, and then we also have quite a few other levels of liquidity. So we've got our London session lows here, we've got our Asian session lows here, and then here we've got our previous day's lows. So this was the lows from Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have Thursday's unswept liquidity, London session. And then we also have liquidity from Wednesday. And so as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of liquidity at this downward area. And it's going to be important to see what happens, because if price comes down and sweeps all of this liquidity out before it rallies higher, then we could potentially see a massive rally today in order to recover the gap. And I spoke about this in our in our pre-market analysis. Right, so moving forward, I said price gapped higher to open the day, is currently trading below this level. This could indicate bearish price action. However, we need to see if the day closes below the opening gap. And so going into the session, what we'd want to do is we want to monitor what happens with price after we sweep our London and Asian session liquidity, as well as all our other internal levels of liquidity. Any bullish price action would hint at the gap being recovered and an aggressive rally to further sweep external liquidity on the highs. And so what I mean is, what that's going to look like is, if we do have a sweep of liquidity down here and then we have a recovery, we could then see price trade higher in the session in an attempt to try and target our external liquidity at the highs. And if we hop onto the daily chart, that's going to look like a massive wick to the downside and then a massive green candle to the upside. And that's going to be extremely bullish. And so obviously external liquidity is always the target. When you're in a bullish trend, you want to target external liquidity. However, this gap is what's going to be an interesting aspect of the day. If we see price sweep liquidity and then rally higher, then we'll want to see whether or not this rally is able to recover this gap. And if we're able to trade back above this gap, then we should easily target our external liquidity. And so that's what we're going to look for going into the session. We're going to watch and see what happens after we sweep this level of liquidity. If we get a green candle print after sweeping this level down here, Thursday's level of liquidity, only because these levels here, I believe, are quite far away. I mean, I don't wanna miss, not necessarily miss the trade, but because there's so much liquidity that's unswept, the chance of price coming down to take out all of the levels of liquidity, I don't think is likely, and so I'll happily put risk on the table after we sweep our Thursday's London session lows, which is this level right here. Um, However, if obviously we get an aggressive move in price action to the downside, then we could actually see price target these levels down here. And so maybe it's going to require patience today, but my discretion is going to be the determining factor on whether or not I get into a bullish buy trade after we sweep and print a green candle from here. If I don't believe that we've got the necessary momentum to go higher, I won't position, or if I do position, I'll get in a smaller position size, maybe half my usual risk. But the idea is obviously we want to see a sweep of liquidity at the lows and then price rally higher to target external liquidity at the highs. And so that's probably going to be the most important factor going forward. Um, if we take a look at the weekly chart, obviously sweeping liquidity and then positioning here could provide us an opportunity to get in long at the lows of the week, especially if price does end up being aggressively bullish. And so that's what we're going to look out today for. We're going to look out to see if we can get positioned in the lows of the week. Nevertheless, we've got about 15 minutes until the market opens. I'm going to keep an eye on that, see what happens going into the session. Nevertheless, I hope you found value in this pre-market. Stick around to the session. Okay, and so taking a look at what's going on with the market right before the open, we are seeing further bearish action. There's no need to be completely bearish at this point. We still have quite a bit of liquidity to take. We've got previous days lows, and we've got this level of liquidity down here. And so with 2 minutes remaining until the market open, what we want to see is all of these levels get swept. As we go into the session, and then we want to see a green candle get printed. Hourly still bullish. 4 hour is turning bearish with 30 minutes remaining. We've got any news at 3 o'clock today? Okay, we've got ISM, so we'll wait till 3 o'clock till we get positioned. It's perfect though. It's looking good. It's looking good. It's not looking horrible. And so we want to monitor what happens after we sweep our London session low, our Asian session liquidity, as well as all our other levels of liquidity. We want to see what happens after that. Because when we sweep this level, especially with this sort of aggressiveness, we want to see whether or not price wants to hold below the level. And if it does end up holding below the level, which it seems that we're about to do, it could be a signal of further bearishness. And so we'll keep an eye on that, because obviously that's going to shift the 4 hour into a bearish trend, shift the hourly chart into a bearish trend, and confirm that. And so we'll see what happens at the open. If we get a massive green candle spike up, maybe a massive wick to the downside and then a spike up, then we know that we're bullish for the day. Keep our eye on that. And so we don't usually trade the first 15 minutes. We don't usually trade the first 15 minutes of the candle, because usually it's a bit uncertain. And so we like to wait for some direction to actually be presented in the data. And so we wait for the first 15 minutes to take place. It will hint to us where the market should be going, and then we join in after. And so I'd just like to point out that we have taken our previous day's lows, and we've taken all the liquidity in this area. We haven't managed to get down to this level of liquidity as down here, and that's why it's important that we wait, because if we do get a massive push down from here, that will indicate a rejection of this level and further bearish action. However, if in the next 13 minutes this candle closes green and it somewhat engulfs this level, we get above this area here, get above this area here, that could be an indication that we're trying to retake this this opening gap. And this opening gap is probably one of the most important levels on the chart right now, because we want to see whether or not price is able to close above this opening gap and target our external highs. If we can't target our external highs, then we're most likely, if we fail to close above the gap today, then we are most likely going to crash down to target all our levels of liquidity down here. And so we're going to have to be patient today to see what takes place with price action. Alright, so just to be clear, we have managed to sweep our London session low, our Asian session low, and our previous day's lows. Everything we spoke about in our in this area here, in our pre-market analysis. Monitor what happens after price sweeps these levels, and then if we get any bullish price action, we will aim to position long. And so we're waiting for this candle to close, this 15-minute candle. This 15-minute candle should present us with our signal. And so in the next 11 minutes, I will be looking to position long into this trade in an attempt to target our gap and have a first target at the gap, obviously. And then our second targets will be our external liquidity up here. So the main purpose of obviously me stating all of this is, obviously at the moment, things are pretty much on track. We've seen a sweep of this level. Now we want to see confirmation that price is going higher. And so in the next 10 minutes, if this candle is able to close green, and we have to wait for the candle close for our signal. If the candle is able to close green, then we can participate in the bullish buy trade. And as you can see, sweep this liquidity at the low, and it seems like we're about to start rallying higher. And so we'll be patient with this one. No need to rush. We want to wait for the data to be submitted, and so we have to wait for the close of the candle. We'll keep our eye on that. Alright, we're seeing buyers come back into the market. We're gonna wait until the candle closes as per usual, and then maybe wait for a slight pullback. But exactly what we expected to see is what we're beginning to see. We're seeing buyers come in, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Okay, so this is exactly why we wait for the candle to close. We're starting to see a little bit of a push down. Um, so we want to wait for the candle to close to get our confirmation. My worry at this point is that on the close of this candle, you get further selling momentum on the 4 hour to try and sweep some more liquidity down here before we go higher. And so, seeing that price is holding this level, and this could somewhat be an order block, I'm not gonna enter on this particular position. Um, it might be wiser to wait for the data to come out at 3 o'clock and to wait for candles to close. However, we'll watch and see how this candle closes anyway. If this candle closes in a fashion that I like, then I will get long. Alright, so we've got about 2 more minutes until the candle closes. We are starting to recover, somewhat recover for the day, which is good. Let me have a quick look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq still looks quite bearish, which doesn't look great, and it seems to be rejecting. Yeah, I think the best thing to do. Less than a minute till the candle closes. I think the best thing to do is wait for the data. Um, we've got ISM manufacturing in the next 15 minutes at 3 o'clock. And so maybe that might be the best play here, considering we're not able to break above our areas of liquidity. And so we'll watch to see what happens. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it would make sense to get in aggressively on the close of the candle. But I mean, there's no harm in waiting for the news to release. Let's see if that ends up being a mistake. And we're seeing aggressive selling, which does not surprise me. And so we'll wait for the news to be released first before we get into a position. We don't need to get long just yet. Ooh, I'm conflicted. I am conflicted because I do want to get long. Let's have a look at the 4 hour again. Let's take a look at the hourly one more time. Yeah, my belief is I'm not the only trader waiting for the news release, and that's why we're not getting the sort of buy-in that we need. Maybe I'm wrong. I am gonna wait for the news release though, nevertheless. I don't see any harm in waiting for the news release. Alright, so just to be completely transparent, I haven't gotten long on this position yet. The main reason is because we have a news release in the next 10 minutes, ISM manufacturing, and I may be wrong. As you can see, we're seeing a bit of a rally now. I could be wrong in regards to whether or not price is going to rally immediately, and it does seem like we are starting to take off. So this might be a psychological error, but even if this is a bullish, even if this is a bullish trade, and we do find an opportunity to get long, hopefully I'll be able to position inside this order block on the 15-minute chart. To be fair, anywhere is perfectly fine to get positioned, especially when it's an aggressive rally the way it is. But obviously, I prefer to get long into the after the news release. ISMs can sometimes move the markets, and based on where we're currently positioned and the liquidity that we've got at lower levels, there is a chance that we just see a massive push down from where we currently are to see price target our lower levels of liquidity, and you can see we've got quite a few. And so I could be wrong. This could be a mistake on my part. However, I'm happy. I'm happy to not put any money at risk for the trade. And as you can see, we're already up 1R if I got long immediately on the close of this candle. But I mean, these things happen. Sometimes you have to make a discretionary decision, and so that's what I've done. Nevertheless, we'll watch and see what happens with ISM. We'll see if this massive green candle is just an inducement to get buyers into the market before price ends up reversing down. And so we have to be patient. In trading, patience is what pays. You don't want to rush into any positions. Obviously, everything that we've predicted in the pre-market in regards to having a sweep of London Asian session, as well as our previous day's liquidity, and then any bullish indications could indicate an aggressive rally. We had all of this prediction take place, and then obviously we had a little bit of psychological errors occur. And so it's not wrong that I'm not positioning long at this current moment in time. However, that's based on having a news release in the next 7 minutes, I should say. And so if we are bullish, I can still get positioned inside here, given the news release would most likely push price down back into this area to provide me to get an opportunity to get long. And so I'm not really too fussed about that. At the very worst case scenario, I can get long inside here as well if price does end up bouncing higher. And so we'll keep an eye on what happens. I'll be back momentarily. Alright, so we got weaker than expected. We got weaker than expected ISM. We got weaker than expected ISM. And so, alright, so the daily chart is still bullish. We know it's bullish, but we're rejecting off this level. And this isn't a great place to reject off, because if we do reject off this level, we're most likely going to target our levels of liquidity at lower levels. And so we wanted to see price come off this level and then just trade straight through it. And as you can see, we're getting some sellers come in, and this is why I waited for the news release to occur, because this could now be a catalyst for further decline. I do want to get short in an attempt to target internal liquidity. However, I don't know if I'm going to do that immediately. I think I'm going to wait. To be fair, I think I might just wait. I might just not trade today, and wait to see whether or not we do close down. I don't want to be on the side of the market where I'm getting wicked out from the upside and wicked out from the downside. And so, in this situation, maybe the best way to resolve it is just to sit on your hands and wait to actually see how price closes the day. I'm not really in a rush to make money. And just to be clear, I do get paid. I actually got another payout today. I got another payout today with Funded Next, and so I'm not necessarily in a rush to get paid. And so the idea is you wanna take the best possible trade setups, and yeah, just to show you guys really quickly, this was my payout for today, 1st of December, and I've just been stacking payouts really. So I'm not really in a rush to trade. So it probably does make sense to sit on my hands today and wait for the data to actually present itself. My issue with getting short is if I get short, this could be an opportunity to buy the market back up. And if I get long from where we are, we could just ignore this level and just completely collapse into our previous day's liquidity, and then obviously aggressively trade down. And so, yeah, when the markets are somewhat indecisive, when there's news releases that alter our trade ideas, sometimes you just gotta wait and see. I don't know how I feel about getting positioned short at the moment. I don't think that's gonna be an option for us today. Maybe I get long in here. I think that's probably the most ideal. As I said, we wanted to wait and see whether or not price would come back down after the news release, and so we didn't want to rush into the position. And so maybe getting long inside this order block is probably the best option for us. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean that would still work because the 4 hour would be bullish. The hourly is also bullish. So this could potentially be our best trade of the day. Our best opportunity of the day. But we want to first see it come inside here. I want to see it happen relatively quickly. We don't want to see it happen towards the end of the candle. I mean, I probably should have just bought here and targeted here, but I wasn't confident about doing that prior to the news. Nevertheless, we'll keep our eye on that. I'll let you guys know what takes place. Yeah, I reckon I set out the day because it don't make sense to get long. If this was our buy opportunity, then we should have taken it here, and then the target would have been here. A rejection of here with a massive red candle would only indicate further selling pressure, especially from this gap, and so it would most likely be a target for lower prices. And so it all depends on the individual, but I'm not willing to short this market because there's so much. Well, there are loads of levels that price can target on the downside. The question is, does it begin today? That's the question. It's quite hard to know for sure. So just to be clear, we want to any bullish price action could hint that gap being recovered and aggressive further sweep external liquidity. Alright, so it does sort of seem like we're about to sell off quite aggressively. And this was a bounce right off of our order block right here. Alright, so this is relatively a tough trading day because I don't know where to position. I know where to position, but I don't know if I want to get positioned. So my thought process is, I want to see whether or not price holds above this level, and if we do, which it seems like we're starting to do, then I'll try and get long. Um, if price closes below here, this red gap, then we don't get long. And so I'm waiting to see where we close in the next 30 seconds. Alright, so we closed above it. We'll watch to see how this candle starts off, if it's aggressive. Um, Alright, so we came back down into it. I'm about to get long. I'll give it a few more moments to see if we get a sweep of this low. If we do get a sweep of this low, I'll try to get long. Alright, I'm getting long anyway. Let's see. Alright, it seems like we're holding the level pretty well, so I just got long into the position. Um, I'm not too confident about this trade, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just, sometimes you just gotta, risk, put some money at risk and just hope for the best. And so this is the trade idea. My entry is more around here. Alright, it does seem like we're about to continue our bearish decline, especially if price is unable to hold this 15-minute order block. Alright, so we're relying on this as an order block to hold, and then we're also relying on 4-hour chart to want to print a green candle. And so that's what the trade idea is. Starting to see price push higher. I need 4 on this trade for us to see the type of I need 4 on this trade